Okay, so I've been playing this new game called Command Ops 2, and instead of trying to explain it, I'm just going to start doing it. So let's just go ahead and get in the mix here. So this is the game. It's World War II top-down strategy game. So let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. You can see that we're doing the tutorial, and we're supposed to be taking St. Vith. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just wanted to just demonstrate some things because I thought it was cool. So we're trying to go up here, but all of our folks are down here. And what we're trying to do right off the bat is we're trying to cross this bridge in Steinbrook and then come over to Sommerswalder. I'm terrible with the pronunciation, but that's okay. So what do we have to work with here? Let's go ahead and bring up, you can see your briefing and you can look at that if you want to, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go to our order of battle. So we can see we have a few things to work with. So we have this overall division HQ. We have our base, it's fine. We also have a tank battalion down here with a bunch of guys. We have armored infantry with a bunch of guys, and we have an infantry regiment with a bunch of guys. You can go in and look at all these things, so it goes all the way down to the company level, but what we want to do is we want to get across here. And we have some rivers, and we have some roads, and we have some bridges, and we have some bad guys that are here, and we want to get past the bad guys. So what I want to do is I want to, let's say, for example, push this, this infantry battalion here across the river and into the woods, because I want to push right past here. And I also know that I have some guys in here that I can push into as well, but I think I'm going to use them as a reserve, and I want to push in with the Armored Corps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy right here. So this is the battalion HQ, and instead of most games where you have to just go around and say, hey, move all these guys independently, what we're going to do is we're just going to give the entire battalion an order to form up here, and then just go ahead and let's push them all the way across into the woods. And they're going to try to form out into this area at the end and go through all these guys. Let's see here. We could also, if we wanted to, come over here and say, hey, let's do some things. Like, we want you to move really quick, so let's do that. Because we want them to get across this open ground as quickly as possible. And we want them to throw down hard and fast. So we're going to say, go max aggression and rate of fire, just go to town. We can also say direct RD support only. So we have if you look in here, we have a mortar platoon. If we don't set this, they could help out with the armor team on the bridge. We don't want that. We want them helping only themselves. And we're going to say, don't rest too much. Just get across there. You can rest when you get there. Next thing is we want to be able to take this section down here, this tank battalion, and we want to tell them to get across this bridge as quickly as possible. We're just going to push them straight into Steinbrook. So what we're going to do is we're going to have them form up, let's say, over here, I suppose on the hill, or in the woods. Nope, let's have them do it over here. So they're going to form up here, and then we want to push all the way into Steinbrook. They may push a little past, and that's fine. But they're going to reform in Steinbrook. And then what we want them to do is we want them to, again, go super fast, and we want them to take the shortest route. So we just want them to literally push right across this field here, go through the road, and then go in. And again, max aggression, max rate of fire. And we don't care. Like, we want them to go quick and fast, and we don't care about losses. And they should be able to handle this pretty well. So we're just going to have them push right in. I don't care about RD support or anything else, and we're going to tell them minimum rest. You don't have to set these things. They'll go in, and if you don't specify something, the battalion commander will say, what do we need to do? And they'll figure it out. It may not be exactly what you want, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So they're good to go, and then we have some other forces that we want to move as well. These guys we're going to just have park here for now, and then we're going to use them as a reserve force. But they have a tank company here, and we want to support them, because right now it's 6 in the morning, so it's still kind of twilight, and morning's going to come soon. So what I want this guy to do is I want him to come over to here, and he's just going to be on defensive support. And we could defend this, but actually what I want him to do is I want him to face kind of in the direction of the town, kind of over that way, and to provide some kind of suppressing support going that way. And then we'll just say, just max aggression. I'm going to let him leave everything else just normal, but I want him to just throw down on these guys. Okay, and then we'll dismiss that. And everything else I think is okay for now. There's a bunch of other forces that we could use, but I think this is okay. So what we're going to do for everybody else is we're just going to grab the division commander and tell him, just have a defend order where you are. If we set it here normally, everybody would come back here. We don't want that, so we're going to use this button that says in situ, so everybody will defend where they're at in their situation. And that's it. So we have a lot of other things going on here. You can see we have some specific orders for our battalions, and everybody else is just going to be shaken out. So let's go ahead and get this thing running. So this is going to run, it's possible real-time game, and it's just taking a minute to get going because everybody's kind of thinking and shaking out their orders, and it'll give you some messages like, hey, maybe this is not such a great idea, but I don't really care. We're going to tell them to do it anyway. And what's going to happen is that these guys are now starting to give orders out to everybody else, and that takes a little bit of time. They have to work it with their staff, they have to send them all out, but instead of telling the B Company 318 to come to these woods, and then A Company, I want you to drive straight across, and then C Company, you're going to stand in reserve on the road. The battalion HQ will deal with all this stuff themselves. And you can see now these folks are starting to shake out. So if we click on the battalion HQ, you can see that they're starting to form up here, and they've already given separate orders to every company or squadron or whatever under their command. So they're starting to move over here. This guy's just on his own right now, so he's just going off by himself. I have to be careful about this, because if I basically pulled him under my direct control, effectively. So if I forget about him, then he's just going to sit here and he's going to go to town, and that could be a problem. So I have to remember that. Later on, I may reattach him to his company once we use these guys. We'll probably, after we take this, maybe we'll see about pushing these guys up further into the woods. And then these guys here, maybe we'll have them come across and hold Steinbrook, and then we'll tell the Armored Battalion to just push right up this road into here. And maybe we can see if we can time the infantry attack with it too, but we'll see. So everybody's coming up right now. You'll also notice that, or maybe not notice, but you can see down here, we have two of these companies of just guns. So these are field artillery. And actually what you can do while we're waiting for all the rest of those orders to shake out, we can go into here and you can see lots of information. It tells you personnel, etc. But you can come over to here and you can see what kind of weapons you have. So in this case, these guys have some M7s, so the 105 self-propelled artillery. As you're looking up here, there's this button down below where we can change the intel filter. These were all intel reports, so we don't really know what's here. Like, we can see that there's an engineer section here, engineer company, but right now the reliability is vague, so we don't know just how good this is. Same thing over here too. If we click on this reliability is good. There's an infantry company over here, and you can see now that there's already fire that's starting to happen. You can see there's these little icons that'll pop up, and you'll see the red fire lines coming through. If there's a blue on there, that means they're shooting. If there's yellow, that means they're taking fire. And if you ever see a red pop up, that means they're taking casualties. So blue's good. That means we're throwing down on the enemy. You'll see these red lines coming in, and you'll see black lines coming in. I believe the red lines are just anti-personnel, and the blacks are anti-armor. But if we click on these guys, you can see this guy has an order to cross, and this guy's kind of supporting. But there's also a third guy over here who's starting to now move across, kind of in this flanking move. And if we click on this guy, you can see that he's kind of just staying back and just watching things. And we also have this border platoon that's staying back with him, and he's currently on a bombard order. So what's happening is now these guys are moving up. You can see he's already starting to bombard this. So these guys probably recognized that there were some guys that were coming across the bridge and wanted to support. And so their battalion HQ gave them an order to start bombarding to support them. So let's go ahead and speed this up a little bit and see what happens. You can see this is taking some time here, so it took them quite a while to shake out, maybe longer than I would have liked, but there's an order delay in this game, so you don't just, this is not like StarCraft where you say, move him here, and then he goes, Roger, Roger, and then starts moving out doing the thing. It takes some time for these orders to shake out, and I realize now that that is really friggin' loud. Let me turn that down. There we go. Okay. So anyways, they're going to start pushing across here finally, and you can see that they don't just come across in a single massive wave. You could do that if you wanted to. Oh, by the way, the sun is up now, so now we can see more things. You can see that our tank company up here is now starting to take and receive and exchange fire. Artillery is coming in on the bridge. The guys are pushing across as hard as they can. I mean, we told them, don't worry about anything, just push across, pour on the fire, don't worry about losses, just go to town. So we may experience some higher losses than we would otherwise, but as far as I'm concerned, that's okay. We got to get across this bridge. And we saw an engineer company over here. We don't want them to prime the bridge to blow up. That would be bad, because if you look around There's maybe a couple of bridges here, but this bridge here is blown. So if we take a look at the crossing data, this is a crossing point. So a bridge could be here, but it's not. Same over here. So this is the only bridge in the area. We got to take this really fast. So anyways, they're coming in. You can see that when they're green, there's a lot of different icons, and there's tons of filters in this game. But you can see green means basically they're in the fight. Yellow means they're falling back, but tactically, not in a full-on route. So they're just falling back and retreating. And red means a full-on route. The numbers that are showing up here is their general unit strength. So the higher the number, the stronger they are. And that higher number gets quite a bit higher. It looks like we took out a unit here, so if we click on these crosses, we can do view reason, and it looks like we destroyed their mortar platoon. That's excellent. The infantry brigade has already pushed across here. That's awesome. We've made contact with their HQ unit. That's great. We can click on these guys, and we can see that they're all starting to move across. The infantry companies will come across and secure this, and then once they've done that, and you notice they've pushed past the point. There was that box that we had from before. So they're extending all the way past the point that they're supposed to be taking, and then they're going to shake out into this area. When they've done that, everybody will then move up. So HQ and the mortar platoon, which is right here, I think, will stay back until they've secured the area, and then they'll push in. We can see here the armor. The armor battalion is making progress. They're having to fight all of this in here, and they're drawing some fire, thankfully. And we can even click on them, for example, and you can see here they've taken some hits. So we've lost some equipment. Excuse me. And our Shermans, I think we've lost a couple Shermans here. But again, they're drawing fire and helping to put support fire on the town while they come across. So if we ever lose track of kind of who belongs to who, you can see it on the order of battle, and then you can kind of link it up to here. Also the blue line, so it'll always link back to their HQ unit, and same thing, you can see the line over here. So they've taken the town, excuse me, and you can see that the HQ unit has realized this, so now they're coming up to come into the town as well. So they're going to be locking up into this town. Same thing here, I believe. They're taking a roundabout way to be able to get there. That's not exactly what I want. I'd much rather them just get there and deal with it. So we're actually going to pause this for a second. This is where it can be problematic. So right now they think that, actually, you know what? We're just going to let it run. Right now they think we can't come here because this is not safe for whatever reason, or maybe it's not even the fastest because there's this whole hold up over here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to pause it for a second. So they're just trying to take a safe route around, or maybe even their quickest. We're going to take this unit, and what we're going to tell them to do is we're going to tell them to move into the town. And we're going to have them just park there. So we want them to go into the town, but we want them to go into town and hold the town while the armor brigade starts getting ready to go. So we're going to have them just get in there fast and quick. Actually, we're going to do shortest, because quickest, they may say, oh, the quickest way is to go around. So we're just going to have them go shortest. And we're going to have them bypass. So I don't want them to attack anybody, and we're even going to set their aggression on minimum. I just want them to get into the town as quickly as possible so we can start launching the next attack. And that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and dismiss that. Let the game run. Armor brigade's coming back across. These units are staying back because they're kind of getting pushed in the town a little bit. So we need these other forces so that we can launch a combined attack on the town. Excuse me. Okay, this is running for a bit, but they're holding okay. This is fine. So they're coming through. We're going to pause this for a second, and we're going to get rid of this attack order because all of our elements minus these two that were in kind of temporary retreat back here are good to go. So we're going to just let it go, delete it, and we're fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start another attack from here, and we're going to push them directly into the town. Now, what I'd like to have is for these guys to support as well, but right now their HQ unit is still pretty far away, so we're going to have to just kind of sit and wait. And now they're coming with bombardment because they're seeing us move across, and they don't like that, which I understand. We also have this airstrike available, and I don't like this here. So this is our this is a Panzerjäger battalion, and we can see that they have some PaK-40s, and those are going to be real problems for our tanks. So what we can do is a couple things. We can use this airstrike, which will periodically come through. And what we can also do, if we really don't like that, is we can come in here and find these guys right here. So we have two field battalions. These are our guns. And we've been letting them kind of do their own thing. But we want this thing gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just put an order to blast that thing right now. And then what they're going to do is they're going to shake out, and then in just a moment or so, we're going to see the bombardment come through. If we wanted to, like, we could time this with an attack that's coming through. They're just doing a short run. Let me actually find. No, this is viewing the actual task itself, not the order. So maybe I'll grab it next time. But we can grab that bombard order and tell them, you know what? While everybody's shaking out to do the attack, we could spread this out across a run, and instead of just having a short attack, a short gun run that goes over, maybe 10 minutes or so, we could extend that out further and have it timed so that we attack at the same time they're coming through. Okay, here we go. So we have our boys in here. The mortar platoon is still back there, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is what it is. What we're going to have them do is we're going to have them sweep up through here and back, maybe into these trees, and then we'll push down in and see how that works. So let's go ahead and just tell them, just stop what you're doing. See, now it goes to defend in situ. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to have them form up here and attack through, let's call it like in here. And then what we'll do is that once they've achieved that, then they'll be able to come across. What we can do as well, we're just going to let them do it. So we're not going to set anything this time around. We could tell them to be more careful about it. We could tell them to stay covered through here. We could tell them to just go on the road and then kick across. But let's see. Let's see what they do. Okay, our boys are coming across. So now they're coming into the town. And these guys are already starting to launch their attack. So off we go. What we're going to do is, you'll notice I pulled those 2 companies off earlier, the 2 batteries. If we go to our fire support, we can now see them in here. And I don't want to have control of them anymore, because what happens is that if you forget about them, then they don't fire. So we're going to reattach them and reattach this guy. And what will happen is that now they're back under the division HQ's control. And so any of these platoon leaders can come through and make attacks on their own. They could say, we need fire support, and then they'll come in and help. Okay, this team is coming up. They're under fire from everything down here. This is a problem. This right here. This is a flak company, so they're coming in with a lot of stuff against our infantry, which is not great. Flak 43s turned against their infantry is not the best thing, and you can see they're taking some pretty heavy fire in addition to mortars that were coming down. These guys are kind of coming up and around. This is the challenge with order delay. Right now these guys are all trying to move into here, and these guys already have orders to shake through and then attack through here. If I didn't have orders delay, maybe I might say, you know what, we need some support here. Push across with the tanks and just take it now so that we can stop these attacks coming through. But we can't just do that. We can't just say, just do it now, because it takes some time for them to shake through. But it looks like this attack is kind of going. It's not that great, and we probably should have waited to just pull these guys across, or to have these folks come over, or maybe throw in some more artillery. But they're moving across now, so it's not too bad. And see now those guns that we returned back now are coming through, and that's okay. This guy that we broke off, we're going to keep here because he's taking some good fire and drawing a lot of stuff off, which is helpful. But we're going to pause it for a second, grab this guy, and so now they've all moved across. We're going to delete that order, and we're going to tell them, I want you guys to come and set up here, and then attack directly into the town and push past through it. And what we're going to do here is we're going to tell them, you got to go. You got to go real fast. And we're going to tell them, just pour it on. I'm not going to tell them maximize losses because we have some flak guns in here, so they're going to have to be careful about it. The other infantry groups have already pushed forward. That's awesome. So they're pushing in. We're going to leave this guy on the hill as fire support for this team that's coming through, and let this attack continue. So you can see these guys have orders to push into town. This is definitely the element to start pushing in now. They have the highest strength of 5, so these guys have taken, I think, quite a few casualties. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, they don't even have their half tracks anymore, and they've lost their machine guns. Not great. Yeah, see, this is now already pushed through, which is awesome. So they're going to start pressing the point. They're already starting to take casualties, and that's okay. We knew this was going to happen. Okay, so these guys are up ahead. They are starting to move into the area. They basically secured it. So we've cleared this area of infantry, which is awesome. And now they're going to be reconsolidating here, and then we're going to tell them to push on through. I could do that, but what I'm going to do instead is we're going to pause this. So this is one of those places in the game where I could say, let's just let them do it, but we're not going to. So what we're going to do is we're going to just delete this order and let it flush through. And what we're going to tell them to do is I want these guys to start taking up positions over here. I would like these two to attack just straight into here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tell them set up here and then come directly into town from behind. And then this guy too, we're going to tell him to set up in here and then attack the town from there. And then this guy, we're going to tell him to defend in here. Now what's happening, as you can see on the right-hand side for the order of battle, we're now taking direct control of these companies. This is not ideal because the more folks that are under our control, then the slower orders our orders will be. And these guys are just going to kind of park here. And let's actually give them defend order just right here. So they'll come in and they'll still provide fire support with their AT guns and the mortars. It'll just take them a little bit to do that, but that's okay. I'm doing this because I don't. If I let all this stuff come up here, it's going to take a lot of time. And right now, there's a lot of guys that are starting to be pushed out of town, and I'd prefer to have a rear hit attack that's coming through. This guy has decided to reconnect with his team by taking the quote-unquote safest way possible. And so he's just taking the road that's going all the way around. Again, not ideal. You have to watch these guys, and this is why you have to be careful about what kind of orders you give them. But they're considering the town to be relatively secure at this point, so they're coming up. We get some orders around surrendering. We have these guys who are still firing, so you can see that blue. I was gonna pull them up, but now we're getting some good support. The infantry team is now pushing through to town, so this is a little bit behind. When you're placing these orders, by the way, you can come into here and say, I want to set it so you start or you launch your assault at specific times. And then they'll try to time as best possible with other things you have. So you can use that system to say, I want the armor attack and the infantry attack to go on at the same time. But it's not perfect. I'm not sure if you've seen any of these orders, but sometimes it'll tell you, oh, we've slipped our time because it took too long. So you don't know exactly how long the order delay is going to take. So you have to kind of figure it out. But now we've pushed into the town. Steinbrook is ours. We still have some rear elements kind of guarding this, and we have our tank as well here, our tank company. This sweep is coming through. This ended up working out pretty well for us because these guys, while they're in HQ division or an HQ section, they still have Shermans, so they can deal with a routing HQ unit pretty easily. So I'm not too concerned about that. We also have the defense set up, and then now this rear attack is coming through and hitting some of their mortar brigades and their HQ. This is perfect. So we've now just pushed right through their rear. They're going to take some hits. You can see that they're just hauling ass out of here, and that's fine. We have some airstrikes available, so we can come in here and say just cause some real hell for them. And now they're just being pincered in here as we go through. So good times. Anyways, that's the game. There's a bunch of other stuff that's going on here that I'm not explaining, and that's totally fine. But I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I wanted to share this just because it's enjoyable. Tons of scenarios that you can go through. This only has, I think, like only 24 units on our side. But later on, we're going to be getting some reinforcements. You can see that we're going to be getting just a ton of units that are coming through, more armored groups that we're going to have to use to push through. We're only at 4 o'clock in the afternoon here. And we started at 6 in the morning, and we end on day 5, and we have to push all the way up here to St. Vith, and the Germans are going to be getting their guys too, so it's just a big problem, and we're going to have to push all the way through this, and we get to decide how we push through. Do we just push through the Bretfield and then go right to St. Vith? Do we try coming across? We have to manage our supply lines. Do we just take this road? What do we do? There's a bunch of objectives as we're going through it. With various points, Bretfield's Crossroads, that's up here. So at some point we probably want to take this and hold it for so long. So anyways, that's the game. Tons of scenarios, lots of stuff to step through, but I'm enjoying it. I'm a big fan of games where I don't have to control every single piece and I can kind of just watch it from here, and then you can grab, like you would a higher level commander, and then just grab certain elements as needed, start linking them back up. These groups that we split off, we can now, like we did with the artillery battery from before, pitch them back in. Now we're coming into nighttime, we have to deal with that too. So anyways, just fun times. Hope you enjoyed it, and take care.